This is the VOA Special English Agriculture Report. Weeds compete with plantings for water and nutrients. So farmers and gardeners may have good reason to hate them. But weeds can also bring pretty flowers and wild beauty to places lacking either. British nature writer Richard Mabey offers support for them in his new book. The title says it all: Weeds, in defense of nature's most unloved plants. But when exactly is a plant considered a weed? Experts at Penn State University say the answer is simple: when the undesirable qualities outweigh the good qualities. A crop plant generally produces several hundred seeds, but a weed plant can produce tens or even hundreds of thousands of seeds. And if seeds get buried, they may survive for many years underground. Eradicating weeds means that you have to remove all the seeds and roots so the plants will not grow back. But birds or the wind can reintroduce them to the land. A more common way to deal with weeds is to control them enough so that the land can be used for planting. Experts advise using 2 or more control methods to deal with weeds. Chemical weed killers or natural treatments like corn gluten can suppress weed growth, but so can dense planting. Bill Curran is a professor of weed science at Penn State. He says a dense, competitive crop that quickly shades the soil from the sun will help reduce weed growth. Other controls include turning over the soil, pulling the weeds, or covering them with mulch made of wood, garden waste, or other material. But even mulch has its limits. Natural resource specialists point out that weeds can be transported in mulch. This is also true of soil, grain, hay, and animals. Yet animals like sheep or goats eat weeds, so they can provide a biological control. Insects and other organisms can also act as biological controls. Preventing the spread of weeds is an important part of weed management. Farm vehicles should be kept out of areas with weeds. If that is not possible, then clean off the equipment and your shoes when leaving. Some people burn weeds or bury them deep in the ground, or make them into mulch. Professor Curran says another way to make use of weeds is to compost them. The process of making organically rich compost produces heat. This heat kills many, though not all, weed seeds. The same is true for seeds that pass through animals that graze on weeds. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
Agriculture Report. Niger is located in the Sahel area south of the Sahara. The West African country is largely hot, dry desert. But since the 1980s, Niger has gotten a lot greener. Around the world, trees are often cut down to clear land for bigger farms or more homes for growing populations. But in Niger, many farmers plant trees to protect their crops. They might cut some down, but often to sell the wood so they can buy food during a drought. Over the years, an agricultural advisor named Tony Renato has helped people in the Sahel learn about the value and care of trees. Mr. Renato says much of the response has come from farmers themselves instead of non-governmental organizations or government officials. He says the idea of planting trees has spread from farmer to farmer as they shared the idea with their neighbors. Trees can provide a wind barrier. They improve the soil when their leaves fall. And they protect against soil erosion by holding moisture in the ground. Niger often has severe dry periods. Researchers say villages where farmers planted trees did better than others during a drought and food shortage in 2005. Mahaman Larwanu works for the group African Forest Forum. Mr. Larwanu says the villagers who had trees grew more food and could also survive on fruit and leaves from the trees. And they could cut wood and take it to the city to sell and get some money to buy food. In the past, the French colonists who ruled Niger had a policy of government ownership of trees. Not surprisingly, this policy did nothing to make farmers want to take care of a valuable resource that was not their own. In Burkina Faso, a farmer named Yakuba Sawadogo became internationally known for growing a forest. His neighbors resisted his new farming methods at first. They even burned his land. But later, they saw how trees could protect the soil against the spreading desert. His story is documented in a film called The Man Who Stopped the Desert. But Mr. Sawadogo says in much of Africa, nobody is looking after our forests. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. To read and listen to more agriculture news and for English teaching activities, go to voaspecialenglish.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook at VOA Learning English.
This is the Agriculture Report in Special English. A small nonprofit company in Cambodia is turning used cooking oil into high-quality biodiesel fuel. The idea is to reduce air pollution caused by low-quality diesel made from petroleum. In Cambodia, heavy trucks usually use petroleum diesel. So do many older cars. The diesel sold in Cambodia is a high-sulfur fuel. It is banned in more developed countries. Experts say diesel exhaust is a big part of air pollution in the country. And air pollution causes lung disease and other respiratory problems. Naga Biodiesel was set up in 2008 to provide a cleaner fuel choice. The company produces high-quality biodiesel at a small factory in northwest Cambodia. Most of the oil is supplied by local restaurants at no cost. The restaurants then buy back the biodiesel at a 40% discount or reduced price. The cooking oil is washed and cleaned to remove contaminants before being processed into diesel. And the process of making biodiesel has a useful byproduct, glycerin, which can be used as a cleaner. The founder of Naga Biofuels says biodiesel burns cleaner in engines and helps improve the air quality in the fast-growing city of Siem Reap. Providing used cooking oil to biodiesel producers makes sense to restaurants too. The manager of a restaurant in Siem Reap called the Blue Pumpkin says he does not have to worry about what to do with used cooking oil anymore. He adds, the whole service is very clean and professional. Naga Biofuels wants to increase production to 10,000 liters by 2013. The business plans to provide its service in environmentally sensitive areas where low-quality diesel can cause damage. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. Farmers in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo are protecting against crop theft in an unusual way. The farmers are growing crops that are less likely to be stolen. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says in the past year, many farmers have started to grow different crops. Guillaume Kahomboshi is a food security expert with the FAO in Goma. He says small farmers think the wars that break out at harvest time may just be an excuse to steal their crops. Mr. Kahomboshi notes that most of the people in Rutshuru, a territory near Uganda, are starting to grow soybeans. The expert suggests this is because soybeans are not good to eat until they have been dried and milled. He says the armed groups want food that is ready to eat. In addition, there is good demand for soybeans in Uganda for making biscuits and other processed foods. Farmers in Masisi, another war-stricken territory in Uganda, are switching to growing cassava. Frank Muki is an agronomist at Goma University. He agrees that soybeans are less likely to be stolen, but he is not so sure about cassava, which is called manioc in Congo. He says cassava is more of a risk because it is a staple food. Cassava is not necessarily easy to steal, but it is easily destroyed. The non-governmental organization Concern spoke with people in villages in Masisi. The group reports that there was less theft of cassava than of other crops. Years of war and ethnic conflict in parts of eastern Congo have divided communities there. This means villagers' crops are as likely to be stolen by their neighbors as by the armed groups. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
English Agriculture Report. Farmers in Haiti plant about 60% of their crops in the spring. But this spring is a struggle with disaster. The January 12th earthquake flattened much of the capital and surrounding areas. It left more than 200,000 people dead and about 1 million homeless. International recovery plans include helping Haiti expand food production. But now, seasonal rains do not make the situation any easier.